أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد من كل ملوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار ودعائها وآله وصحبه وسلم يا هادي يا رشيد 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 سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين. The first question that came up, and it resonated among all of the women, was the question of the connection to the heart. Basically, what one lady said was that for all my life, I have heard about the importance of connecting to my heart, and I don't feel that I really know how to do it, or would even know if I'm doing it or not doing it. And that's one level. And then another lady responded to that her ibadah, everything that she does, seems to be in addition to working and being a mother, and that she finds that often those things that should help her to connect to her heart just become tasks, so that she doesn't actually experience the connection to her heart. And she's actually, the ibadah just becomes like another task, and she doesn't know how to fix that. And there's only, it's like one question really that just has three levels. And the third person said that I heard about muraqabah, about establishing a witness when I'm relating to the outside world. And I want to do that. And another lady said, well, I've been taught that I should do that, and I should be submissive, and I should be understanding, and I should be compassionate. And oftentimes I've ended up really in danger when I try to follow that instruction. So I need to know how to really respond to an environment that often feels threatening. So that's all three of our questions. There's one really.
Can I stop?
He hasn't started saying anything yet. That's why. Come nearer then, if you come here.
I'll try and answer the middle one, because I'm not sure I can answer anything about how to connect the heart, because I'm not sure my heart is connected in any way. But the second part about a mother who feels the pressure of dealing with a task, I think I can relate a little bit to that, in that if I can explain a very personal understanding and then perhaps lead into what the hadith says about that personal understanding. Alhamdulillah, I've mentioned a couple of times that Sarah, Idrisa's mother, became very, very ill. And before that, I had a role. I was leading the prayer. I was the khatib of the mosque. And I had everything that khatibs have, the big stick, the beard, and status, and everything that comes with being a leader of the community. And then she became ill. And then the next couple of weeks, I was khatib, but he came along with me. And as you can see, he's not a difficult child, so he's sitting playing with me. But after a while, it became more difficult for the khatib to bring a 2-year-old baby to the mosque. And then I decided that I really need to focus on him, and I need to spend my whole time with him. So I released myself from the duties of khatib, of the imam of the community. And then I asked, could somebody help me by babysitting for half an hour while I attend the Jummah? Not as khatib, but attend the Jummah as a musalli, as one of the people praying in the mosque. Somebody says, no problem, we'll help you. You're the imam, we'll help you. Somebody will come at 5 to 1. Or no, I said, please come at 12. So they came at 5 to 1, which is 5 minutes before. And anyone that knows babies, they don't work according to timetables. So 5 to 1 is his sleeping time, and that's why it says pick him up at 12. So at 5 to 1, they phone me, say, we're coming. Of course I'm going to miss the Jummah anyway. And even if they came on time, I could maybe get to the Jummah late and take a sleeping baby somewhere where he's not supposed to be, pick him. And anybody knows that that's difficult. So what did I do? I had no choice except to lie next to him and pray and just not attend the Jummah, which is haram. I'm a man. It's my responsibility, it's a duty upon me to pray my Jummah. What am I doing? I'm holding a 2-year-old, 1.5-year-old baby and crying. Now, there's 2 reasons why that's important to me, and that trying to answer the question. I was lying and crying, holding this baby. I think that perhaps my heart was more connected to Allah at that moment than I was the week before when I was standing with my stick and my big beard. Not that there's anything wrong with being the khatib, but I think that my connection to Allah was greater in that point for 2 reasons. One, he's going to be my son and the father of my grandchildren, inshaAllah. So that moment of looking after him is an investment in everything else that's going to happen in his life. And that's why the role of the mother is so great. And that's why the role of the mother is not to do the khutbah. It's not prejudice. It's just that recognizing that the role of the mother is unique and is great. And the second is, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ refers to crying many times. Is baku, cry. فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِئْ فَتَبَاكُ. If you're not able to, then try to cry. In other words, this crying is really important for the heart. And he also said another hadith, he says, if you knew what I knew, you would cry a great deal. And you don't know that unless you've held a baby in your arms, knowing that you've got that responsibility for this little thing that is going to be a human being, and one day, inshallah, will be the khatib of the mosque. So it's not a task and a duty, it's an honor. It doesn't seem like that, especially when you're trying to pray and you've got smelly nappies distracting you. This is the mi'raj al-mu'min. It's difficult to have a mi'raj al-mu'min when this is happening to you. But the reality is that perhaps that's where the real connection is going to be. And many men don't have that blessing to be able to have the role of the mother. Alhamdulillah, I was blessed with that, and I think that, in my view, did more for my heart than the role of khatib. So the first part about connecting, I don't really know. The second part, I kind of know a little bit about crying and nappies and stuff like that. And the third part, I wasn't quite sure I understood. But I'm sure they understood.
Do you want to say something on connecting to the heart or any of these things?
Looks uncomfortable for you. Assalamu alaikum. My voice is a little bit difficult today, so I hope you'll be able to hear me. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. On the question of connecting to the heart, you are always connected to the heart. The heart is the center of your being. It is where the light of Allah is present. It's actually, your entire life is emanating and predicated on the will and the light of that is within your heart. So how do you become conscious I think is a good question of what is the messaging coming from your heart. How can you become more aware so that you can read read what is being presented to you through your eyes and through your senses that is reflected in the mirror of your heart, so that you can become more aware of what the hidayat and the light and the narrative, the mirroring is coming from your heart. It's a simple formula, but it takes a lot of work to do. And what it is that we all need to be in the state of awareness, of dhikr. If you practice dhikr, it means that you're creating a space in yourself that is, in a way, language here is a little difficult, that is separate from that which is the thing that you're experiencing. So, for instance, if you are doing whatever it is, daily chores at home, both men and women have the same opportunity. Women have a very obviously different role to play. Men have a different role to play. We're all playing different roles. We're all wearing different hats. You're a mother, a father, a businessman, a taxi driver, a restaurant owner, whatever it is. We all have this myriad of different roles that we play. But one thing that we do have all in common is this ruh, this light, this heart that's within us. So, in what the best way, and this is our way of our teaching, and in the way of the Quran, is that you must have fikr, reflection, and we need to develop that reflection. So that is when you, for instance, if you all of a sudden you see yourself doing something. I'm angry with someone, but if you step back and you become aware of your anger, then there's a space between that which is aware and that which is angry. So you're creating then consciousness within you. And that consciousness has a dhok, a taste. And as you practice this more and more, you become used to that dhok, that tasting of awareness within you. So that the next time the thing happens in front of you that makes you angry, you're not sucked into it and you don't grab it and become identified with it. In that pause of becoming identified with it, you are now experiencing a neutral and awareness of that thing that you're looking at. So that is consciousness. And in that consciousness, as you develop a taste, and it becomes now established in you as a muraqib, a raqib within you, the watcher, the aware within you, it starts to grow within you. So your experience in life becomes more and more sensitive, and you're now doing more and more, which is called your reading, iqra. You're reading the situation rather than being identified with it. That's how I know that's the way it is. For me, that my personal experience in this is that I watch myself. I stay aware of all the things that are happening in my mind. When I lift my hand, why am I lifting it? Where is it going? What's pushing me to do such a thing? Why am I turning my head? And if I'm turning my head, what's making me turn my head? Man arafu nafsahu faqad arafu rabbahu. He who knows himself knows his Lord. Knowledge is knowledge of the self, is what leads you to the presence of your Lord, which is resonant within your heart. So knowledge can only come by awareness, and awareness can only come by you making an effort to enter into into dhikr, to awareness, a remembrance. And the more you do that, then you become connected to the source of awareness. Because remember, our awareness and our consciousness is not our own. Allah is aware. Allah nur samawati wal ard. Huwa al-awwal wal akhir wal zahir wal batin. La ilaha illallah. That awareness is the spark of the aware. So the more you are aware, the more you have that mirroring growing within you, that dhok becomes expanded within you, and then the compassion and the love and the vision of interconnectedness and the holistic story of our existence starts to unfold in front of you. Because not for 1 minute is any one of us in a place in which we are optimally placed by Allah's wisdom and His decree to know Him. Because Allah's original purpose in creation is to be known and to be worshipped. You cannot override that. That is the operating system of this universe. There's no way to override that. So no matter what happens, that's the command upon you. But what we need is to be in Islam, surrender to it. And the way you surrender to it is to become aware. Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'inul qulub. It's upon the dhikr of Allah the heart is made tranquil. You can't see become unattached and less identified if the water and the mud of your life is all jumbled together. It has to be tranquility. It has to come from that place within you where you can reflect. So this is what I know as a beginning, and it's all the way through. It's a process that continues because that light is forever, and your life, as long as you have a breath in you, you'll always experience that. I just want to say one little more thing about, particularly, women, I think sometimes get a bad, they get a bad rap about this, that somehow watching children and cooking or whatever is somehow lower or higher, or men doing something is lower or higher. This whole lower or higher thing, you need to toss. All need to toss that out. We're just playing roles. It's just a role. And Allah's given you that role so that you can transcend that role. That's all. You're the mother, but you're not the mother. You're providing solace to your children, but who is really providing that solace? Allah is providing that solace. It's your path. Your life is your path. There's no path anywhere. You can't go somewhere to go on your path. There's no place to go. There's nobody who's going to give this to you. Nobody can hand you your life. You are your life. You are the reflector of the universal decree. So take it, like it says in the Quran. Take your book with strength. Hold it, grab it, and say, okay, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to be aware. I'm going to watch. And that's the work. That's the work you have to do. That's the jihad. Without that jihad, I don't know what else. Okay.
I just want to address the third part of the question, which maybe you also have addressed, but I straight away came to think of this ayah of the Quran. لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء. It's one of the few instances, or maybe the only one, where Allah doesn't say what He likes or what He loves, He says what He doesn't love. لا يحب الله. Allah does not love, meaning Allah strongly dislikes al-jahra bisu, that you talk loudly, openly about negative things, about bad things. Illa man dhulim, except for somebody who is oppressed. It is not compassion, it is not generosity, it is not being magnanimous to accept that people treat you unjustly. Don't ever think that you have some kind of duty or some kind of responsibility, or it is some kind of higher spiritual state that you accept dhulm from anybody. Rather, the Prophet ﷺ said that you should help the person who is doing good, and you should help the person who is doing bad. And you help the person who is doing bad by stopping them. And if you don't have the power to stop them yourself, then you have to do it through others. If you can do it with your hand, then well and good. If you can't, then with your tongue. Help. Whatever. So I said it is not in any way a requirement or somehow a higher spiritual state, or makes you in any way it's like it is not a religious duty to accept injustice. Absolutely not. I will want to state that so clearly, because I think it is the cause of a lot of distress and a lot of harm and a lot of suffering completely unnecessarily.
Assalamu alaikum. I will take Sister Yakuta's lead and try and bring all of the questions into one big soup. So we had a very heated and interesting discussion yesterday. One of the things that first arose, one of the most clearest things or the most universal, general things that arose was a sense of community. People coming here, and as much as they get from the speeches, it's connecting with each other and, just being surrounded by goodness and people that are like-minded and perhaps even better than yourself. And just that sense of community, interacting with, just positive people in states of positivity, whatever background they're coming from, different backgrounds, but there seems to be some unifying factor. And what Hajj Mustafa was talking about, this X factor in the Jama'ah. So the question really came up was, these retreats are all well and good and a wonderful opportunity to do that, but what's next? And like when we go home, how do you carry on that sense of community? Or, should we working towards a community? Or has the time of community finished? Or that kind of ideas were being shared. Connected to that then was, as you'd get with a bunch of men sitting around in a circle, the state of Muslims today, why are we so reactionary? And the kind of the two sides of the discussion was, is it because of foreign influences, external factors, or is it because of Muslims themselves to blame for their own, because of their state? I mean, we were aware in the discussion that, we have lost a sort of essential understanding of the religion. So there is this need to revive the meaning of our religion in order. So we have to change ourselves in order to change the world. There is that understanding, but at the same time, isn't it? Aren't we also a product of our environment? Aren't there like biological limitations, and don't we inherit trauma? Aren't there like socio-political determinants that we can't really do anything about that influence the way we become? So that is the second part of the question, I'll call it. And lastly, and I think it's all related, it was mostly about sort of just connecting what was shared here, the sort of very high ideals of living with people's situations and real lives, day-to-day lives. So the last part really encapsulates this, and that is that everybody, or perhaps I should say almost everybody, enjoyed the stories and they got something great nourishment from the stories or inspiration. But where do these fantastical feats that we hear about leave us? Again, people can relate to, their own personal mini miracles, if you like. Everybody's had some amazing story, perhaps how they got married or some other, something else like that. But there seems still such a gap between what we're hearing and where we find ourselves. So what can we do about this gap? And how can we sort of relate what we're hearing in these stories to our situations of violence and abuse and those kind of things that we perhaps see in ourselves, but also what we see around us? That's the full story, I think, right?
Who wants to start? That was an easy question, wasn't it? Hajj Mustafa, do you feel inclined to say?
You go ahead first.
Okay. Well, it is. I wouldn't say it's three questions rolled into one. It's much more than three questions. But well, with regard to the state of the world and the state of Muslims today, etc. I mean, the Muslims today are we. We are nothing else other than the Muslims. The people are we. The community is we. The world is also we. So I think we should first of all try not to separate ourselves. Try to come out of this they. Who are they? They are just we. It's only we. It's only us. We are the people. We are the human beings alive today. We have those who were before us. We have those who are coming after us. But it's all the big we, I think. So what is our state? What is the state of the world? Well, it is what it is. And it is, to a large extent, what we and our predecessors have made it. And it will become what we make it. And if we feel we are not able to change the world, which most of us probably feel, otherwise, well, we might have an issue. But we have to try to make the best where we are. It comes into this first part of the question about building a community, about doing the best. Don't be too overwhelmed by what is happening. It will always be there. You know, the world is there around us, and it is a world of suffering. It is a world of pleasure. It is a world of opposites. There is good there, there's bad there. There's suffering there. There is also enjoyment. You know, there is hot and there is cold. There is angry and there is happy, and there's, all of that is there, and it will always be there, and has always been there. What our task is not to kind of make a judgment upon how good or bad is that, what is the state of the world, how many % better or worse is it than it was 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 years ago. It is completely pointless and futile. What we have to think is, what shall I do? What is my role? What do I have to do? And as a community, what can we do? And I think you have to start in the small. You have to start with ourselves, absolutely, with our families, with our nearest communities, and build communities. And I don't think today we can build communities by artificially bunching a lot of people together somewhere out in the desert and make a few buildings. It doesn't work. I mean, I'm sure Mustafa can tell us loads of stories on how it doesn't work, and presumably Sheikh Abdulaziz as well. I don't really have much of a personal experience, but I can see that. So we have to build communities in a way that works. Where we are, we have to become a community. Where we are, in our walks of life, in our jobs, in our flats and houses, and wherever we may dwell, we have to build that community. And we have to build that community by meeting each other more often. I mean, the retreat is a few times a year. What about between the times? Well, it's up to us. Or rather, it's up to you. It's up to me how to do that. Meet, even just over a cup of coffee. Or, you know, I'm not too keen on this virtual this and that. It's like, I like IRL. I like in real life, as real as it is. It's kind of virtual anyway, but the other virtual world is sort of a virtual world of a virtual world. It's like becomes less and less substance. So meet. I really believe this. Meet each other, see each other, make that time. Skip some unimportant task. Now, drop all these ideas about I have to do this and I have to do that and we have to achieve this. And look at what is important. What do I want in 10 years' time? What would I have like that I did today? So I think that, you know, try to focus on the important thing and make time for each other, not as a gesture of kind of charity towards each other. Oh, she needs me to go and see her. No, I need to go and see her. You know? So I think that just meet. Even you don't have to do it. You don't have to have an agenda. You don't have to have a amazing program of ta'aleem and dhikr and, you know, we're going to go through it. No, just meet. And even here, I mean, as wonderful as the lectures of Shaykh Abdulaziz have been and the stories of Hajj Mustafa, they're only an excuse for us to get together, really. You know? The important thing takes part between the talks, you know. That's it. And we can keep that up during all the times, I think. So let the world worry about itself, you know. Try to minimize the problem. I mean, one big thing today, one very, very big change in the social fabric and what makes up our lives today is this massive information that we are continuously bombarded with all the time about everything that happens everywhere and most of what doesn't happen anywhere as well. And we just have to screen ourselves off from that. It doesn't help us. It doesn't make us any better. And it doesn't make the world any better that we are bombarded by all this information. So I think we have to try to shut ourselves off from that. Okay, we don't have to be complete recluses. Maybe we don't have to live a Amish lifestyle, although that is kind of appealing anyway. But still, you know, we don't have to all the time be on the phone. one of my big issues, actually. One of my big addictions is the mobile phone addiction. The best thing we could do probably would just go here to collectively, unless there was an environmental aspect of it, and chuck them in the sea. That's just not very kind to the sea, but you see what I mean. So try to, I think, be with people, meet each other. If you can in real life, if you can't, at least with a phone call, and keep something going, and meet up often over anything. And luckily, I forgot the third part of the question, so I'm going to hand the mic to one of my fellow speakers here, who will take over, who will save me now from this quagmire. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Before I came to the camp, as I do with most of my journeys, I write down a few intentions. And one of my intentions, and obviously I don't fulfill all of them, but I have intentions. And one of them was to attend the majalis of dhikr. And up until this morning, I hadn't attended any jalsa of dhikr. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get anything from that intention. And alhamdulillah, I did. The jalsa of dhikr this morning, the key parts of that, for those that have been fortunate enough to attend the gatherings with, in particular with Shaykh Muhammad Muslim, was that he pointed out something really, really very important about the dhikr. It wasn't about what you say. It's about what you intend. And if you intend connection to Allah, you'll get it. And you need to work on that intention. And alhamdulillah, the few minutes of exercise, so to speak, spiritual exercise, where he helped us to connect, that's really the answer to that first question that the sisters put. You need that intention. It's also the answer to the first question that the brothers put. What do we do when we go back from here? Alhamdulillah, I've had a good time. As I said, I didn't fulfill all of my intentions, but I fulfilled some of them. But the key to that, what do I do next, is what was the intention? I'm not going to go and intend to build a community. That's not my intention, and it won't be my intention ever again, because that's not my responsibility. Allah's not going to ask me Yawm al-Qiyamah, so did you build a community in Glasgow? He's going to ask me different questions. He's going to ask me about me, my children. He's going to ask me about my connections with people around me. So I need to take what I've learned about intention at that very basic level of breathing into my relationships with people. And it's true, what Shaykh Muhammad Muslim said, it's difficult for me to add to that other than to perhaps expand a little bit, because he kept it quite short, that when you go for your coffee, you are building a community. But you're also connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a very, very important way, if you know why you're going for coffee. Why am I going for coffee? It's not because I like coffee. It's because I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He said, wajaba, this is a must, alayya, for me. Mahabbati, my love will be a must for the following people. Al-mutazawirina fi, those who visit each other for my sake. So the reason I'm going for this coffee is because somebody needs to be visited, or we need to share. Wal-mutajalisina fi, and those who sit together. Wal-mutabadhilina fi, and who spend time, or spend, translate exactly. Mutabadhilina, they spend. And in Scotland, I don't know about Sweden, but Scotland you have to pay a lot for coffee. So the one that pays gets the reward of the mutabadhilina fee. But the one that doesn't pay also gets reward. Why? Because he spent time, or she spent time. So this idea of what do you do when you go from here is you look at your intentions, and you don't build a community by just having a community, building a center. This doesn't work. What happens is that whatever relationship you're in, whether it's you on your own, you and your baby, you and your neighbor, you just make sure that that's pure and it's connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'll find that even if you try to cut yourself off, and I did, and Allah cut me off, He cut me off, I'm there crying alone with a baby, and everyone else is in the Jummah. But at the same time, He then sends people. Some of them, they're blessed and they give me a fridge. And then other people come because they need a fridge. and other things. And they come, and you think, I don't want you here. I want to be alone with my baby crying. Just go away. But you can't, because Allah sent them. So what you do, you make sure that your relationship with that person is pure. Whatever you're doing, whether it's just having a cup of coffee, or whether that person needs something, look at what they need. They just need a smile. They just need a hug. They just need to vent. They don't actually need anything. They just want your company. They want to borrow some money. They're thirsty. They need a coffee. Whatever it is, look at the situation and you'll see that when you do that, people will just come and something will happen. And that's what you'll be responsible for, not for any bigger issues. Yawm al-Qiyamah, that's what you're going to be asked about. And you'll see that as that happens, things around you start to get built. Not because of you, but because of those connections that are being made. So I'm just kind of adding to what Shaykh has said. And again, I can't remember what the third part was either.
Assalamu alaikum. I think Shaykh Muslim and Shaykh Fredericks covered the whole thing. But I just want to make one comment about the dynamic of politics and some aspect of shaitan. So, essentially, shaitan objected to the creation of Adam, and because he said the famous saying of shaitan, "Anna khayrum minhu," I'm better than he is. And Allah says to him, well, you don't know what I know, and you don't know what he knows, because we've given Adam all the names of Allah. So there's these two divergent narratives that are going on in our existence, in our world. One is of shaitan, which claims the ground of existence and the narrative. And then there's another narrative, which Allah Azza wa Jal has decreed and written within every human heart, which is the unfoldment and the actualization of the Asma Husna, the names of Allah, the attributes of Allah, the awareness of Allah in our lives. Part of the dynamic of the world we live in today is that we're overwhelmed by media and by information. That information, constant information, serves the purpose of blinding and desensitizing you from the real narrative which is within your heart. If we are all of us, we're all guilty of this. How many times a day do we go to our cell phone and look at Facebook or the news, whatever it is, news organizations that you read, political connections, that we're constantly getting a hit from this, and somehow it's giving us a sense of a picture of the world that overwhelms us from and distracts us from the real overarching, intended by Allah's wish, narrative, which is that you have come from the One, from me, Allah says, and you're returning to me. And along the way, it's your job to come to know me and come to worship me. We can't do that if we're listening to shaitan all the time. And the action of shaitan is in part manifest in this secondary narrative, which is driven by power, greed, control, consumerism. It's really a result of consumerism. It's to get you hooked into a certain perspective of life that evokes in you a sense of agitation. Because you read it, this is what this question is being born from, is everybody's agitated, the world is a mess. Well, yeah, the world is a mess. The world has always been a mess. I mean, think of it. Just right after the Prophet ﷺ died, just a very short time after, his 2 grandchildren and 72 members, friends and family are slaughtered by other Muslims. I mean, the world is a mess. It's always been that way. You know, there's a hadith that says that the children of Adam will never be content until their mouths are filled with dust. We're always like that. This is the nature of us, and it's the nature of shaitan. So I think one thing that's been a practical advice, and this is something that I'm not practicing enough, but I've seen people who do this, and when I've done it, I'm in a better state, which is avoid as much as you can your interaction with these type of devices that we carry with us all the time, listening to the news. Like Shaykh Fredericks, for instance, is an example. He only listens at 8 o'clock, like for about 10 minutes. He goes to his phone, and that's it. And whenever I've put my phone away, or I've gone on retreat, like I've been here 4 days, I haven't listened to anything or seen anything, or I've been traveling to countries and places, villages where there's no electricity, or I have to just be disconnected, I can guarantee you, for after a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I turn on the TV or the computer, it's the same story as it was 3 weeks before, right? Nothing changes. But what has changed, which is significant, is that I wasn't listening, right? And because I wasn't listening to that, I was hearing something else. I was becoming in touch with the real narrative. So let's utilize this situation. There was one thing I wanted to mention. It's natural for us to feel angry and upset and want to do something about the misery of the world. That's who we are. We're hot-wired for that. You know, you see an injustice, you want to do something about it. You know, you see something you're attracted to, you want it. You see something you're repelled by, you are repelled by. We're interactive creatures. We need to interact with life. So it's a natural thing. So one has to limit oneself. That's why it says, if you see something, lower your eye. Don't allow it to come into your heart. You're responsible for everything you hear. On the Yom Qiyam, you're going to be asked about everything you heard, everything you saw. Your cells will bear witness to you. In fact, the reality is that it's bearing witness to you right now. That's why we're in the state that we're in. So we have to find ways to limit our exposure to that which distracts us from the voice of Ana Khayrum Minhu, and listen to the Rahmatul Alameen. Less of the Ana Khayrum Minhum, more of the Rabbil Alameen, the Rahmatul Alameen. And that's how we'll change, that we'll benefit. Because it's our nature that whatever it is that we're listening to and we're exposing ourselves to will be that which we respond to. Our hearts will respond to our emotions, our intellect, and so on. Otherwise, we're lost. And one other thing, the world, this is a very purposeful thing, this whole thing. I would suggest that there's a documentary called The Century of the Self. Has anybody heard of that before? Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. So I would recommend everybody watch that. There's it's not conspiratorial, it's just people know and understand the powers that be, the consumer machine of Wall Street and Madison Avenue and wherever it is in the world, from Russia to China to everywhere, it's the same thing. It's one system. They all dig into a certain way of controlling you, of manifesting certain ideas and narratives in the market, because you're a market. You're a market to the shaitan. You're a market, right? That's his job, is to distract you from the path. I mean, that's what he says, right? And Allah gives him the permission. He said, you can go on until the end of time, trying to distract my people from my word. And the shaitan has taken that on. That's his thing. So it's an active thing, and it manifests itself and it's consciously manifested by these powers that be that are throughout the world. So it's a good thing. Watch that, and it'll give you an idea of the dynamic that's behind a lot of this, and watch your own self, how you're compelled. Shaitan is very compelling, because he promises the garden, but he delivers you the fire. That's one of his things. And think of his name. It's really interesting. Shaitan, shatana, the Arabic root, it means to make distance, to appear distant. Allah is not distant. And Iblis, from the word ablasa, and I may make a mistake on this, and Shaykh Muslim and Shaykh Fredericks can correct me, one of the root meanings of that is to despair. So despair and a sense of separation and distancing is the modus operandi of shaitan. It's the modus operandi of a consumer society, so that you can be consumed in it. So that we have to stop listening to it, to turn away from it, and turn our hearts inward, our consciousness towards our hearts, and hear the narrative, the words, the hidayat of Allah Azza wa Jal. So, okay, Assalamu alaikum.
If I may, representing the men, I just wanted to make a request in order to answer the third aspect of the question. If I could make a request to Hajj Mustafa, because for me, what helped me in answering that question, which if I rephrase, is that we see these fantastical feats mentioned in these stories, but how can they relate to our sort of more mundane lives? Or, it seems a gap, between what we hear in these stories and we absolutely believe that these shuyukh have gone through and other blessed beings, and where we find ourselves. But I thought I would just request you gave us a taste of your experiences with Sheikh Bashir Uthman. If you could share how he himself came to the path, where he was a news editor. You've shared that story with me before. Because I think that for me really helped me see, my own way of connecting and deepening myself in that tawakkul and that sort of, I don't know what to call it, but that, that beyond rational experience of life that we heard about.
Yeah, I want to just make a comment about that. This is one of the downsides, you may say, of this type of stories. There are many, not just, I have some pretty wild stories, I know, and I've told you some of them. But there are many stories that in the transmission of stories through the Sufi tariqas, many shuyukh, there's been incredible, miraculous things happen. But here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that Allah says, didn't I not make an example of a gnat? One, just the little tiniest of things is a miracle. We have to put things in perspective. Your life, your beingness is a miracle. You're walking miracles. Everything that you are at any given moment is unique and amazing, and each one of us carries all the attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. The light of the heavens and the earth are within you. So let's remember that and not get distracted by the drama of maybe these stories that have, and these stories have these type of sort of fantastical dramas in them, so that you will reflect on the meaning that it has. And if you can reflect on the meaning, it means then that story that's your story then. If you got that meaning from a fantastical story, don't get hung up on the events of the story. Take the juice of the story, the perfume of the story, the meaning of the story. If you've got that, then you've got the reality of that story. So each one of us has a fantastic story, because each one of us is created for the highest of purposes. What was the other part again? There was one other part you mentioned. Did I answer that already?
Oh, the request for that story of Sheikh.
Oh, yeah. So, Sheikh Bashir Uthman Bashir, rahmatullah alayh, he owned one of the largest newspaper in Eritrea, and he was a very wealthy man, and he heard that a great Sufi sheikh was coming to visit Eritrea. He had murids there. His name was Sheikh Bukhari, and he came through, and Sheikh Usman Bashir had sent a reporter from his newspaper to visit and interview Sheikh Bukhari. And Sheikh Bukhari didn't care. He didn't want to be interviewed. And so he just blew off the reporter. And when Sheikh Uthman Bashir heard about it, he said, "Well, what's this about? You know, I'm giving this man a platform. You know, this sort of egotistical. I'm helping him to get his message out there. And why would he not want to do that?" And so he sent somebody else and tried to negotiate it. It just didn't work. So he got very upset, and he got in his car, and he heard that he was traveling down a certain road. There was only one way out of I don't know where they were, some city, probably the main city. I don't remember it right now. And he had a Mercedes, and he sped up, and he found them in a caravan, and he pulled his car over and he waved them down, and because he wanted to see, like, how is it that this man, he wanted to tell him off, it's good. So the Sheikh's caravan pulled over, and Sheikh Bashir Uthman came out of they opened the door, and they first met for a moment, and he told the Sheikh, he said, "Look, I was giving you a platform, I was going to give you everything so your messages can get out, right?" And he said, "You really want my message?" He said, "Yes, I want your message." He said, "Come with me right now and leave everything behind," right? And at that moment in time, Sheikh Bashir Uthman Bashir actually did that. He left his car, he got in the car with Sheikh Bukhari, and he went off, and they drove all the way from there, finally to Arabia, and wound up in Medina, in Arabia, where he then lived the rest of his life. And that's a whole, of course, amazing story. But, okay, I have to come back to this from your first question. That's what he did. And that's a lot of people at one point in their life maybe find themselves in a situation where they have to make they're compelled to make a leap in life. It may be that all the things around them are pointing to the fact that they shouldn't do it, that you have responsibilities, that you have things to do that are more important or practical. But then there are times where you have to do that. And this was the time that he had to do that, and he wound up, of course, living a very illustrious and luminous life, and illuminating and benefiting not only himself but the lives of so many other people that came to visit him. I had the opportunity to stay with him in Medina. But again, it's the meaning of the story. It's what you grasp from it. This freedom of recognizing the moment and taking it, right? فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. What are the mercies and the gifts of your Lord do you deny? When something comes up, you take it. The Prophet ﷺ said that opportunities are like clouds. They come and they go. You have to take it when it's there. So, but that's again your read, what you have to do. It's what you at that moment read and say, I will do that or I won't do that, and take responsibility for the results of that action. Is that all right? Okay.
So we have a little while left before we have to break for lunch, I think, so we can get ample time for lunch before we gather back together again for Salat al-Dhuhr, and then basically the conclusion of this retreat. So what Hajj Mustafa just said, I take that as a sort of concluding remark for this session, and I would now ask Sheikh Abdulaziz to just say a few concluding words to this session, please.
Can I be permitted to just laugh? It's the first time I've ever thought my stories of a grey fridge, chicken and chips, a crying baby were considered to be fantastical. Ajib. May Allah give all of you grey fridges, and all of you give you Nigerian taxi drivers, and may Allah give you lots of chicken and chips, or whatever the equivalent might be in your lives. Inshallah. Miracles are not those enormous things, you know. It's a grey fridge, it's a Nigerian taxi driver, and it's chicken and chips. And they're there in front of you, you just have to see them. You just have to feel them, you have to recognize, Allah gave me these chicken and chips. Allah gave me that fridge. Allah sent the taxi driver to knock on my door. And if you look carefully, you'll see there's many, many, many more fantastical miracles in your life than you read in the books. Because I read books and I think, I can't remember that. But I remember the chicken and chips. And I'm sure you've all had chicken and chips before. Unless you're vegetarian, then I'm sure it's probably hummus and, you know, falafel. So may Allah open up doors for all of you and open up great connections to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May He open your eyes and your inner eye, that you can see things with great clarity, and that the knowledge that you have is the knowledge of the heart, not of the tongue, and that He keeps you in the company of good people, and He takes people that are not good company out of your life and replaces them with people that are either good company or people that need you to take them forward. May He make you people of His way, and keep you on the path of those that love Him and He loves them. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few words really relating to both, or rather all then, of the questions, both from the sisters and the brothers. And that is that Deen is not some add-on to our lives. It is our lives. You know. Everything we do, night and day, whether we do it on our own or together with others, is part of our Deen. The Prophet ﷺ said, and this is really a consolation, one of my absolute favorite hadiths, I have many, of all time. Inna deena yusra. The Deen is easy. I mean, even those that 3 words, Inna deena yusra, Deen is easy. If we can only understand that, I think it would be an amazing help. It's supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be difficult. It's not supposed to be hard. What did the Prophet further say? وَلَنْ يَشَادَ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَ. And whoever tries to make it difficult, who becomes a hardliner, or who wants to take on or challenge the Deen, will be overpowered by it. You say, I'm going to be the perfect Muslim. I'm going to go this. I'm going to pray tahajjud. I'm going to do all my nafils, and I'm going to do all this awrad and this and that. You'll crumble under it. You know. Allah didn't put this weight on your shoulders. Why do you have to put it on your own shoulders? It's these small things, you know. I mean, who said that changing a baby's nappies is worth any less than praying 8 rakats of tahajjud, or doing a long wird or something like that, or going for Jummah for that matter? You know. The Prophet ﷺ said further, وَلَكِنْ قَارِبُوا وَسَدِّدُوا. He said, do your best. قَارِبُوا. I mean, you can't do the perfect. It's okay. Just do what's near to it, you know. Do your best. وَسَدِّدُوا. You know. Take the middle path. وَأَبْشِرُوا. وَأَبْشِرُوا, and be happy. Take the good message. Take the glad tidings. Listen to the glad tidings. It renounces with the Quran. أَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ. It's enough. Be happy. Basically what the Prophet ﷺ is saying in so many words is, don't worry, be happy. Really, really. I mean, that is a prophetic message, really. Just be happy. See the wonder in everything. Look at the positive side. The small, learn to be grateful for small blessings and to see the miracles in your everyday life. And then a little bit of advice on spiritual practices. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالْغَدْوَةِ وَالرَّوْحَةِ وَشَيْءٍ مِنَ الدُّلْجَةِ. and seek help from the morning traveling and the evening traveling, and maybe a little bit at the middle of night. You travel in the morning, you make camp, you rest while the sun is at the top, and when there's no shadow and it's too hot to travel. And then in the afternoon, when the shadows become longer, it becomes a little bit cooler, you carry on traveling again. And then if you really, really are in a hurry to get there, you maybe, after having had your evening camp, get up and travel a bit during the night as well, when it's cold outside and the camels can run a bit faster. So this is, have some awrad in the morning, have some awrad in the evening. And if you're able to, if it is easy to you to bring it into your life, just stay up a little part of the night. Shay'in min ad-dulja. The Prophet didn't say stay up all night praying. He said a bit. And that's it. It really doesn't have to be more difficult than that. Right? Glad tidings now of lunch.